Hello and welcome to the Spiritual Solopreneur podcast. Today, my guest is Tina Bakehouse. Tina is a holistic communication consultant. She helps heart-centered leaders and organizations to discover their magnetic speaker style through transformational workshops in improvisation, storytelling, and communication. Welcome, Tina.
Thank you so much, Bev. I'm excited to be here with you today.
Me too. I hope I didn't botch that intro too badly. Speaking of communication.
You did beautifully.
Oh, thank you. Awesome. Well, Tina, it's great to have you. And I guess my first question is, how did you come to become the magnetic communication coach? And what is magnetic communication?
Well, from a very, very young age, I always was attracted to stories and performance. I mean, as a little girl, I loved the Muppets and Walt Disney and just really found it fascinating that how did these guests on the show draw people in? And I started to study communication not only as a high school and college student, but beyond, and became an educator in that field. And through my journey, I really realized that communication has been labeled a soft skill, and that came from the 50s because they labeled in the military the hard skills were those that were easy to measure, like concrete. We can measure if you can lift 150 pounds or not, but we can't as far as being an effective communicator. That's very subjective. So hence why we call it a soft skill. I think it's an essential skill. And so I evolved from working in HR, teaching high school speech students, to getting my advanced degrees teaching at the collegiate level for a decade, working in human resources and beyond, to realizing my side passion project of coaching and consulting heart-centered leaders to draw out of them their stories, their means of how to get out of their own way and communicate with confidence and clarity was really my joy and passion. And so from there, during the pandemic, I jumped out of the plane, figuratively speaking, and figured out my feet are going to land. I just don't know when, but I want to create my own business so that I can have complete creative freedom. And from there, Tina B LLC was born. And I just celebrated this last January, 3 years of actually creating workshops, having my magnetic speaking blueprint coaching program for groups and individuals, and doing some consulting work for various corporations and nonprofits. And so it's been a lot of fun. And now I'm in this phase, right, of what are my buckets? What do I want to create for what's to come in 2024? To answer your question, the word magnetic just started to just bubble up as I was meditating and noticing things around me. And there's something fascinating when you think about putting a magnet on a refrigerator, or that first moment when I was in science class and we put two elements together and you couldn't put a rock and a stick together, it wouldn't stick. But somehow metals of with certain elements could attract each other. So I define being magnetic as attracting another individual with your words, your voice, your body, your energy, and overall essence to get that desired impact, whatever that may be. It's a co-creation. So you first have to connect with yourself to then connect with another person.
Awesome. So it's kind of like the metals that you were saying. In this case, it's connecting with or attracting the other individual who is going to be the right individual, who they're, the alloys are matching up or
Right.
complementary.
Absolutely. It's also, you want your audience has two choices. They can choose to tune you out or choose to listen. Well, magnetic communicators draw an audience in with their ideas, with how they deliver it. So it's a healthy, happy balance of how you've managed your message and your mechanics of your vocal and physical delivery.
Awesome. So you use some spiritual tools like energy and the concept of spiritual alignment in your coaching. How do those sort of fit into what you're doing?
When I, in the past, have worked with some groups, we open up with a small group guided meditation. And I feel like to center ourselves, because who knows where they were in their lives prior to the actual meeting time. They could have been hustling and bustling or having a rough conversation or day, because a lot of times my groups would meet over a lunch hour. And so that was one piece that I noticed. Or if I meet with an individual, I really, make sure we start there with let's center ourselves. And I feel like that is acknowledging that we are souls having a human experience. The other piece is looking at the psychology and internal piece of human design, and knowing what if they have an open throat or a closed throat channel that affects and impacts how they go about speaking and expressing themselves. And that is super helpful, I think, information to have that conversation and to draw from that guidance and strategy as well. And then we look into different ways of I provide guidance even in my workshops outside of my coaching program, that meditation and movement and dance, being in that spiritual energy really gets you into a magnetic mindset. And if you're not there first, you're not going to land your message. Your delivery will shut down because your mind and heart need to be in alignment. Then the message will come out. Because if your mind and your heart are not together and unified, if your mind's going, I can't do this, I don't know how to do this, oh my gosh, I'm terrified, am I being judged? Your inner judge can be super wicked loud. Then your body's going to respond with being flushed or tension or talking too fast, and then your message will not land.
Exactly. And it's interesting you mentioned the throat channel, because I was just thinking as you were saying that about the throat chakras. And the throat chakra, of course, is going to be of paramount importance for speakers. And I think we all tend to at times get it blocked, and we sort of massage our message a little bit or adjust it a little bit because we don't want to tell our truth, don't want to say our truth for some reason or another.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but if you're going to be a speaker, and a professional speaker or somebody that speaks regularly, you really need that authenticity to come through. It has to be sort of baked in, right?
Right. You have to ask yourself, who's driving the bus? Is it the loving, wise adult, the authentic self that is leaning into the faith and inner knowing that you know what you're talking about? Or is it the fear-based conditioned belief that I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy? Remembering that childhood experience, perhaps of a teacher, an adult in your life, or a child even saying something to you that really impacted how you viewed yourself, can truly come through. And I found when I wrote my book, I wrote a whole chapter on forgiveness and how forgiving the other and the self is very helpful and powerful means to magnetism. For me, I had an elementary teacher that actually really humiliated me multiple times throughout my elementary year. I had 9 months where I wasn't even called my name. I was called Big Mouth for just liking to read out loud and being enthusiastic and having this quirky personality. And that was soul crushing, because you look up to your teacher. I didn't feel safe
Yeah.
emotionally. And so going through a process a year ago as I was writing the book and actually really forgiving that individual was very powerful. And being able to share that with my clients it's a foundational piece of releasing and landing into the authentic heart-centered space.
Awesome. And forgiveness is so important for everyone in all different kinds of applications. I know I listen to the Ho'oponopono forgiveness prayer almost every night before I fall
Mm.
asleep. Just to, forgiveness of yourself is so important, right? And if you, whether you do or you don't, that inner judge, I think for all of us, even experienced entrepreneurs, it comes back occasionally and accuses you of imposter syndrome and all that kind of thing. Um, where does that I guess that's where that voice comes from, is these experiences that we may or may not even remember, right?
Right. Absolutely. I would say we have the 5-year-old We have the 10-year-old, we have the 16-year-old obstinate teenager, all these different levels and stages and phases in which we were exploring the world. And sometimes the world can be very daunting, hard, and challenging. And the people in it being teased or judged or critiqued, whether from family members or people in your class or people you work with. And I have found I'm going through a journey right now of taking a emotional intelligence course for coaches. And what I'm learning a lot is how to soften that inner judge and saboteur, because we have them and we live with them in day-to-day times. And it's labeling it, acknowledging it, and quieting it, and getting into our bodies and into our hearts, and being expressive with love, because love and fear cannot be expressed at the same time.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I guess there's different theories about how to deal with that voice. Some people would say, well, just tell it to go away, go into its room and not bother you. And other people would say, no, no, talk to it. I had a guest on the show that saw it as her inner dragon, and in a dream, and was sort of petting it and talking to it and acknowledging it. So which camp are you in on those?
Yeah, that's great. I think what it is for me is I just call that inner voice judge, okay, quiet judge. And I've been playing with some different things. And what I've found for myself is movement and breathing have helped a lot in terms of getting out of that headspace, because I'm very heady. I like to strategize. I definitely have a squirrel creative mind. And I really do care about other people. But what I've learned in my journey, as I've been going through this life as the soul that I am, is letting go of truly caring what other people like, having to be liked, because not everybody's going to like you, what you have to say. And especially living in a rural space in the Midwest, uh, judgments happen if you're not falling into a farmer's wife kind of mentality. I am not that stereotype at all. I'm very much a unicorn, and
Yeah.
I embrace that. And a magnetic unicorn who's doing a unique business. And I do it differently, because there are a ton of speaking coaches and communication consultants out there. And that's where sometimes I've been dabbling in. How do I even talk to people about who I am? Because I love to go deep. And it really becomes a we thing, like getting into the dance of conversation and co-creation with other people to guide them. I'm here as a guide. Nobody really needs help. They just want maybe guidance to draw out of themselves what's already there. It just is buried.
Right. So what do most people come to you for help with? Is it just professional speakers or mostly professional speakers that come to you?
It's a wide range, actually. So I have individuals who are at a space where they work for themselves, like small business owners that are just struggling with getting into a networking space and needing to communicate with confidence just about their business and telling their business story. So I've had those kinds of clients. I've had high level CEOs that have really beautiful abstract ideas that they want to sell to their teams, but they don't know how to talk about it. Or even I've worked with healthcare professionals where they have to have those crucial conversations. And how do you do that with high risk communication? So it's a wide range, anywhere from, if you want to get on the keynote TED Talk stage, that's very, let's craft a talk together. I guide that client. Or the individual who's like, hey, I show on my face when I'm really upset and I need to work on how do I message and show compassion when I'm really frustrated with employees as a leader. That's not appropriate, right? So working with vocal and physical delivery and means of compassionate communication. So
Mhm.
it's a wide range of consulting with the actual content of the message, as well as how to show up as a heart-centered magnetic leader.
That's awesome. That is, you were saying before, there are lots of communication, speaking coaches and consultants and things like that. But I think you've differentiated yourself quite a bit with just your approach, a more spiritual approach, really. Um, But what's your view on competition? Should we be competing with each other, or is there any such thing as competition? Or should we be collaborating instead of competing? Or do we need to differentiate ourselves in the marketplace?
There's definitely competition out there, right? Because I mean, we have a Super Bowl coming up here and people want to see a winner and there's going to be a loser. So competition exists in our culture. We can't ignore it. And in the world of business, there's this thing called the rat race. And this is something I've been exploring this year with my word being intentional. Intentional with my time, efforts, energy, money, people I surround myself with. And I would say, from a standpoint, I've experienced firsthand people feeling like I'm their competition and feeling intimidated and feeling that energy, having them kind of shut down, not wanting to share their sources, ideas, et cetera, if we're on a connect call. I don't view conversations with other communication consultants, coaches that way, but some people do. So it does exist. We can't say it doesn't. For me, I do love the idea of collaboration. I do love the idea that there are a lot of communication coaches and consultants. Would I have said that 4 years ago when I started my business? No, because I've grown and expanded a lot. I was very insecure when I first started. I remember someone telling me, like, why aren't you doing this already? Because there's no one just like you. You are your own person. It's like writing a book. You have your own tone, your own style. There's tons of communication books out there, but I put my own spirituality, my own stories in there that nobody else has walked that experience. So to answer your question, yes, competition exists. I think for me, it's a conditioned belief system that they are insecure potentially. And in business, it can be a dog eat dog kind of world, but I don't want to live in that walk and in that way, because if I believe that, then that's what I'm going to attract. So I really believe in collaboration. I mean, even just getting to have a conversation with you, we're collaborating, we're in a dance of conversation. And why not collaborate with other? Just before this call, I was talking to a gal who does much more of the marketing strategy, but part of her work is helping her clients with signature talks. And instead of me getting insecure or her getting insecure, we've decided to partner in the fall, and I would speak to her community, and her community will buy my book. So what a beautiful opportunity, supporting each other. And then I'm supporting her by inviting her to one of my networking groups and getting her out there as well, because she does things differently. She markets more, but she still teaches some of what I teach, but in a different way. And wonderful. I celebrate her.
Exactly. That is awesome. I know it took me quite a while when I first started going to networking groups and there would be other web designers there. I would be like, oh no, I shouldn't, I don't want to be here. You know? And it took me a while because there's always going to be other web designers there. There's always going to be other marketers there. It's always going to be others, a lot of the time, other coaches of all different kinds there. And you just have to sort of um, embrace it and I now understand that yeah, they do the same thing I do, but they're them and I'm me and I'm doing it my way and they're doing it their
Yeah. Well, just like
way.
podcasting, right? There's a lot of podcasts out there, and you interview in your own way, you ask questions in your own way, you frame it in your own way, you have your own style, your own niche of listeners, your own platform in which what do you want to talk about, your focus, et cetera. And how beautiful to lean into that instead of going, I don't know if I should be doing a podcast. There's so many out there that have spiritual podcasts.
It's true.
It's which is true, but we need to hear your voice and your ideas.
Well, thank you very much.
My pleasure.
I feel the same about your voice.
Well,
Um,
thank you.
how do you have any advice for attracting clients, for magnetic client attraction?
So for my business or for people in general?
For people for solopreneurs
Okay.
particularly.
Well, I think the biggest thing that I can say is having a very clear understanding of the self first, and acceptance of the self, all the things, and knowing who you are. So that starts at the core, at the heart. And so when you understand the self, then you're going to put yourself out there in a very beautiful way that will draw people to you. So something I've learned in terms of growing my business is when I trust myself and I just put information out there to share, to serve, to support, I get random people say, hey, I need your training. Oh, would you come speak? Oh, let's do this. Or someone refers me. When I'm in a space, which does happen, of insecurity, of sabotage mindsets, I see kind of a small drought happening because that's sort of the energy that I'm putting out there. So it starts at being heart centered first and getting in that grounded, centered confidence and being aware of how you dress the part. I love Brene Brown, where she talked about in one of her books that she had put on a suit like everybody else for a keynote and it felt weird, uncomfortable, and she had to get out of it. And so she put on a jean skirt and a shirt and clogs or whatever and nailed her talk and got the best speaking points that day from feedback. Why? Because she dressed as herself. She owned it. She owned the stage and owned her style. And for me, I start with like, okay, I have keynotes coming up. I wear high tops, glitter shoes, etc., that are fun for me with like a jumpsuit, something professionally fun, right? That's bright colors. Not everybody would want to wear that or pull that off. So it's tapping into the style, putting on your power, owning it within, and then you will draw in conversations, collaborations, connections that will be meaningful. And the message has to be super clear. If you're confused, you're not going to sell anything. And I've gone through that too. It's like, oh, is my program, should I do a 3 month, 6 month, 1 year? I've played that in my mind, right? So I've really been committed to two different programs. One is 6 month for a magnetic leadership blueprint, where it's that foundation, understand yourself as a leader. You may not want to do a keynote or TED Talk, and that's okay, but you still need to understand your style, your temperament, your communication, and others' communication styles so that you can connect. Second level, a 6 month program is, yes, I want to get on stage. It's the magnetic speaking blueprint program. So one is leadership, one is speaking. I had to meditate on that. For a while, I was like him hawing around because I was in this weird creative purgatory. So if you're in a creative purgatory, confusion means lean into that, do some more meditation, get in nature, have some spaciousness, don't have a ton of sales calls because you're not going to land anything.
Right.
You really have to be centered on anchoring in your confidence. That's magnetic. So it's being present, calm, and confident.
Exactly. If you don't know what you're selling, a sales call is not going to do anything for you.
Right. Well, and even just if you're kind of murky on it, you're like, well, I do this thing. But if you're not exactly sure or feeling strong about the price or all the thing, any of it, then guess what? They're going to feel that energy. So it's
Exactly.
really getting centered in that and start small, start on that stair step of, okay, what's one thing I can do for my business that's super exciting to me? And maybe it's, I just do one-on-ones and I do not a program even yet. I just do one-on-one hourly things. And then maybe I build a 3 month program. And then maybe I start with a workshop webinar that's free just to put my information out there and try some things.
Exactly. And sometimes people do two or three different things, kind of slightly disparate things within their one business.
Right.
And then it starts going around and around their head. Well, which one do I lead with, and how do I integrate that one into the first one, and that kind of thing. And I just, I had that too because I was doing two or three different things, and I finally decided, okay, I'm just going to say I'm doing these different things. You know?
Well, right. And owning it.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing that I've kind of got struggle with is, well, we are all title driven. And I'm going, oh, consultant kind of comes off harsh. Coach is sort of
A little too
lovely, but
soft.
I'm it can, well, because I'm a teacher, I'm an educator, I'm a guide, I'm a strategist, and I've been doing this work for more than 20 years, and I've continued to learn and grow and evolve. And so all those words are just words and labels that people have conditioned in their mind what they think and believe, like introvert, extrovert. We have conditioned ideas of introvert tends to be quiet and shy, which is not true. I know introverts that have loud voices, but they just need downtime to plug in. In fact, I'm a gregarious, more of an introvert person
Mhm.
that loves one-on-ones much more than big groups and needs that downtime. So it's really how we define things, and we as human beings do label, and we can have confusion on those labels. And so it's getting clarity on just, hey, I do these things, and these are the things I do, and I'm going to be stable in that being and show up as that being that's magnetic.
Exactly. And it'll evolve too, you know,
Yeah, and that's
this,
okay. Yes.
some of those things might drop off, and others might get bigger or something like that. It just sort
Yes,
of,
for
you learn.
exactly. For example, I did a lot of teaching at the business school and at a university of resumes and cover letters. So at first, my first year or two, I put that on my website to do analysis of resumes, cover letters, etc. Well, I've since let that go because I can do it. I can teach business writing. Is it my passion? Not really.
Exactly. And you definitely want to step into your passion at some point
Yes, for
to stay
sure.
in business. Can
Yes.
you offer the audience a couple of quick tips on somebody looking to just improve their communication skills on a day-to-day
Absolutely.
basis?
Absolutely. The first step is to have a magnetic mind. You need to first of all align your head with your heart, which I mentioned earlier. And how do you do that? Well, first of all, it's what I love Abraham Hicks segment intention is allow spaciousness in your day. So if you've got an important video or presentation or workshop, really give yourself book-ended time before and after to process and especially beforehand. If you have a workshop, do not plan tons of things prior. In fact, I recommend nothing, and get to the space an hour ahead and really feel that space, get in alignment with the space, even start talking to some of the people prior because it's going to calm your nerves. So, getting centered in your mind is having space, doing some movement, whether it's dancing or walking in nature, and that will calm your inner system and get you centered. The second tip is the message. And how do you craft a magnetic message? And it's tuning into being very clear on your purpose and being fully audience centered. So having a clear general purpose and ask yourself, am I informing or persuading? And what are my main points? And really craft that in a way that makes sense. Hook your audience, start with a hook and end with a hook. And that's going to get them to choose to listen to you. And then the last tip are your mechanics. And in order to have that vocal and physical delivery, think of what kinds of styles that you love best, vary it in terms of pacing, pause, projection, your pitch, etc. Think of Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech. He did not keep the same pace nor his vocal punching of words at the same volume. He actually went from around 89 words a minute to over 180. So that adds vocal texture.
Yeah.
So think and practice and be able to play with how you use words when you're telling an important topic or an important point. Say, the most important idea that I want you to grasp, emphasize it, punch the words, or 10 out of 20 people. When you say a statistic, you can punch that a little bit louder. So use your voice
Yeah.
as the instrument that it is, and your body will follow. Those who gesture actually shape the conversation, tend to get a lot more connection with their audience. So if you're not a big gesture, that's okay. Do what's natural, but let your words guide you and your passion. If it matters to you, it's going to matter to your audience. And that's going to guide how you present the information is your passion for the topic.
Awesome. I love the first point you said too about getting there early and just preparing because it puts you back in control. You feel
Yes.
like you have control, right?
And it lessens the uncertainty.
Mhm.
Because for me, I've had a wide range of workshops or keynotes where, especially workshops where the space was set up in a wackadoodle way. And so I had to help the person who was there to facilitate it, set the chairs in a certain way so that it was ready. If I had walked in a whiz in 5 minutes before, we would not have started on time, and I probably would have been a little bit more disheveled and all over the place.
Yeah. And I guess that could happen though. And so you have to be prepared for that too.
Sure.
The
Well, right,
unexpected that can
exactly. I
happen.
mean, you could get stuck in traffic,
Yeah.
but it's finding a way to just take a breath and a beat, because our breath is really our power. And I tend to hold my breath when I get nervous. So it's like, do those slow breathe in and really release slowly, and you will find your body will start to relax.
Yeah, exactly. Is there anything else you'd like people to know about what programs you offer or what your services are?
Absolutely. In addition to my individual 2 levels of coaching programs, which I mentioned prior, which is that entry level magnetic leadership blueprint program, which you go through the magnetic mind message mechanics to get there and be that next level leader, as well as the speaking blueprint program to be magnetic on a keynote stage or get a TED Talk. I offer virtual as well as in-person workshops that vary in storytelling, how to know those 5 beats of crafting a strong story for your business or nonprofit, whatever you're looking for, and to get your audience to really engage and be emotionally connected. Improv, I love, love, love doing improv workshops, not only in person, but virtually they can work as well. How to be that yes and leader. Kiersey Temperament is another, I'm certified in that. And then magnetic communication. So workshops and keynotes. I customize my keynotes for organizations to be able to connect with themselves, with each other, to really get their culture to the next level. And my
Fantastic.
book is a great resource.
Yes.
It's definitely, it's rich with stories and strategies. I interviewed 50 people and have exercises, reflection questions, and it's called Discovering Our Magnetic Speaker Within. I know you're going to put the link in the chat.
Yeah.
You can purchase that. If you purchase it through my website, I will actually write in the book to you and mail it to you, or you can
Oh,
get it on Amazon as well.
nice. And what would you like someone watching this to, what would you like their takeaway to be, their most important takeaway?
If you think deeply about the who that you are, it's analyzing with authenticity, the self, the context, the audience. Then you formulate and craft your content from that, because context affects and impacts content. And then you get to put out a performance that is real and true to you, that you have that presence you desire. So it's in those stages, right, of strategy and make it simple. We want simplicity and story to connect with our audience.
Yeah, simplicity and authenticity.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. How can people get in touch with you and sign up for your services?
Absolutely. Through my website at tinabakehouse.com. That's tinabakehouse.com, Tina, B as in boy, AKEHOUSE.com. I love to say bake as in baking cookies, houses in
Yeah.
casa. And you can sign up for my newsletter there, which gives a couple times a month. You get some awesome tips and tools to really support you in on your communication journey, along with stories. And you can find my book there and other webinars that are posted, as well as some videos. So
Wow.
that is a great way to get in touch with me, is tinabakehouse.com.
Awesome. Tina, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. It's been an awesome conversation.
Yes, Bev, I appreciate the invitation to have this conversation as well. And I love your energy and what you're putting out into the world.
Thank you so much. Same to you. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
you. All right. I'll talk to you later.
Yes, thank you.